Hello everybody, welcome, Haunted the Truth, Mark here, but this video is not going to be about me, oh no. I recently went on a haunted and history walking tour, which was run by a top bloke. His name's John, and he basically went round my city, my area, and told a lot of ghost stories in and around the area. And this video is going to be basically bits and pieces of what he told me. Now there is longer stories to what he says, but I took some of it out as, if anyone's ever in Bristol and they wanted to do this, they should give it a crack, because there's a hell of a lot more that he goes into other than just like ghost stories of the area. He talks about a hell of a lot of history in and around other areas of the city as well. But anyway, without further ado, here it is. Enjoy.
So originally it was a farmhouse called the Frogmore Farm here, and where the academy was mentioned, the studio, Locarno used to be the back, that was all farmland. Then it became a pub in 1606. So it's older than the Landogger Trout by 160 years. So that's the original building. The two gables are much more modern, but originally that was a farmhouse. Human skin panel, the two doormen there, it's on the middle top panel. Push back, the top panel got the human skin on it. Because I think when you say about the 1980s, 1990s, when the manager had the pub, he actually got the door tested out to prove there is human skin on it. He actually had a scientist at the university come down and test it out. The door is 300 years old, and it's the top panel going across that way.
Why would it be any question? Why
Superstition. They used to say when you used to hang people, it was to ward off evil spirits. So there's human skin on the door here. Over in the M shed, there's a court document in the M shed this big. A guy's court papers are covered in his own skin. That's in the M shed museum. The yellow picture inside the door, to the inside the inner door, is Blackbeard the pirate. Blackbeard Edward Teach used to drink here. His house is still in Guinea Street on Redcliffe Hill. And BBC did a good programme 3 years ago called A House Through Time, where David did about 4 episodes in the house in Guinea Street. The house they filmed in, directly opposite, is Blackbeard's house. It's still there. So Edward Teach lived in Bristol in the 1700s. And if you go in the Ostrich pub at the very bottom, great pub, the Ostrich, in on the right of the bar, there's a little cave with entrance about this size. That's a tunnel that links every house in Guinea Street. All those houses have got a trapdoor in their kitchen. You could pull up, crawling down the steps, and actually end up in the pub. There's a tunnel that runs linked to Guinea Street, all for those houses.
So is it pirates that haunt this? Is it?
I don't know. It's not. As far as I'm aware, I've heard no major ghost stories.
Oh, really?
Not every building's haunted. No.
I got told by one of the people that lived there once ages back that it's the second floor from the top.
That's the first floor is the bar.
Second floor from the top.
Yeah, that's the flat.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, but I've known Jake and Drew, his brother, for many years. You may have heard it. I've heard nothing from them. I've been drinking here for 20 years.
Wives' tales,
yeah.
Okay.
The Landogger's haunted, but the ones that are haunted, I will say, but I've heard no major stories myself here. I've been drinking here a long time. Haunted building behind us. If you might have heard of this, this is Gaunt's house. Now student flats. Before that, it was a school. Before the school was here, there was a hospital here during the Middle Ages, during the plague. There's people buried underneath this building from the bubonic plague.
Oh, okay.
Because Bristol's
Baldwin Street.
Yes, there is. And in the galleries, and when we go in a minute, up by the bus station.
What's been the sightings?
So the story goes, I know the caretaker worked here for many years. He was saying his cleaner from Unite, they were cleaning the basement once. Mm-hmm. As the lady finished steam cleaning, she put the cleaners away, came up to the first floor to meet her colleagues. As she came up the internal stairs, all her rings and her bracelet were pulled off her fingers. No. She caught them on the stairs, screaming the place down. So now he does downstairs, girls do upstairs. 2 years ago, he showed me down in the basement where these concrete pillars end in the basement. Yeah. Pulled up a trap door. We crawled in. I get claustrophobic. It wasn't great. Yeah. As we crawled in, you can actually make out the arches of the hospital. Like we were saying before about Lawrence Hill, new on top of the old. You can actually see the arches beneath your feet. So you can stand on top of a church. If you get to Edinburgh, the same there. You've got the new on top of the old. Yeah. He's just found a tunnel that runs from the back of the hospital into the Lower Mez Chapel, which is still there. Because the chapel's still there. And it was called Gaunt's Hospital. That's where the lane is called Gaunt's Lane. This used to be a muddy passageway from the top down to the harbour side we mentioned earlier. And back when you used to come down here then, you used to get mugged and attacked by muggers. So they put the steps in and the streetlights to make it safer. Guys working at the original Bristol Hospital where the BRI now stands, when they would go home at night, they'd take knives and surgical instruments with them to defend themselves with. It was that bad a street. Back then the street was called Knifesmith Street. All the shops you sell knives and weapons. The reason it's called Christmas Steps, because at the very top where the almshouses are, stained glass window with Jesus in it. That's why it's called Christmas Steps. It's also called Queen Street, Luxford Stairs. Back then it was a muddy lane. Steps 1660. Fantastic pub. It's one of the three Sugarloaves. It had a Christmas Steps because the location was the three Sugarloaves. But originally its building was built by Fry's as a sweet shop. Bristol's one of the first cities in England to sell chocolate bars.
Did you know that?
So the people got stories then of like.
The lady had the florist. Lady had the florist at the very top. She used to say she used to screaming outside her florist. Florist is gone now. Very top of the rise, the lady had the florist shop. She used to scream in the early hours because outside there, so we used to hang people. Cool pub this. It's featured in a great book you can get called Haunted Bristol by a lovely lady called Sula Q. She wrote it 21 years ago. This building has been here since 1674. Used to be a priory here with the church in the back. Until a few years ago, where the food sign is, you used to have a sign on the wall about the ghost problem. On the sign, it said in 1706, two brothers had a massive argument in the pub, arguing about who owned the building. The bigger brother punched the smaller brother, picked his body up, threw him in the cellar. The cellar is still there where the black doors are. So since we've been doing this, I've met 4 landlords, including Darren, the current one. Each owner takes the pub over thinking ghost stuff, rubbish, don't believe it. Then weird things happen, they don't understand. Even now, Darren and his wife will be in the flat at the very top. In the early hours, the food lift will go from the kitchen on the first floor into the pub on its own accord all through the night. And in the cellar, they've actually had orbs on the CCTV moving back in the cellar as well. The first floor, the kitchen, the chef worked here for 10 years. She resigned last March. Every lunchtime when she finished work about 2:30, she'd clean the knives, utensils, hang them on the wall for the next day. One morning, opened the kitchen door, the knives were missing. She knew she washed up. As she looked to the left where the table was, the knives were stuck in a complete circle. If you ever go by, they're always advertising for staff here. They call the ghost in here George. And just a few months ago, Darren was down in the cellar, the landlord, putting on the pipes and the barrels today. He put all the pumps into neutral. When he came upstairs, 2 of the pumps were down and beer was flying everywhere. And it was only him in the pub. He's 6'2". If he gets freaked out. So they call the ghost George. Most Haunted were going to film it a few years ago, but at the last minute they changed their mind because the owner asked too much money. This is my book I mentioned you, Sue's book, Haunted Bristol. The church is 500 years old. During the Reformation, when Henry VIII took on the church that we mentioned earlier, so he could get divorced, his troops stormed this building and they murdered all the monks in here. Took all the gold they could find. The story goes the monks knew they were coming, so the valuable gold they hid in the cellars. Some of that was never recovered. And during the Second World War, 2 air raid wardens, basically during the Blitz, 2 guys used to see a monk walking through the pews, slamming doors, talking to himself, and allegedly protecting the gold that's never ever found. Even to this day, they've never found it. They haven't had a service since COVID hit, but they filmed Being Human here with Aidan Turner, Polar again with Aidan Turner, and the Doctor Who episode, the Christmas one called The Snowmen, when they had the snowman with the dark eyes with Gemma Coleman, that was filmed here. Call it a church inside. It's now administered by St Nicholas Church, the other side of the market. Landon was a good pub. It's now owned by the Rock and Bowl Hotel, the Lanes, the job centre in it, the Lanes own it. They bought it. The new sign's done because the original owner lived in a village called Llandogo. That's why it's called Llandogo Trow. Trow is the boat a gentleman name. Originally there were 5 gables, 5 pointy bits. Each one was a shop they knocked through into one pub. So you see the old pictures, there was 2 more gables where the modern building is. Yeah. They were destroyed during the war. Each one was a shop. 1660, not as old as the Hatchet. Top floor is where Most Haunted filmed 20 years ago. They filmed in the middle gable because the family had a young son with a metal plate on his foot. One leg was shorter than the other one. The boy died young age, they sold the pub. The chef in the 1980s had that room because underneath there was the old kitchen for the restaurant. When he'd be asleep at night, he used to wake up, he had the scraping on the floor and the boy crying. Every time he walked around the top floor, wouldn't see anything, but he'd hear that horrible scraping sound on the floorboards. So now they put the new bedrooms in this corner here. They put some new bedrooms because they have club nights here on a Friday and Saturday to make more money. It's doing quite well again. It was struggling because Whitbread's had it for a while and they were running it down badly. It's now owned by the Lanes. They own the one in the old job centre and one in London, where Most Haunted filmed here. Wasn't doing very well. And they filmed overnight, but they did. Living TV had money, a lot of money, because back then cable channel had money. They did a whole night here.
The old Duke.
Old Duke, which is what's called the Duke of Cumberland. It was a bed and breakfast for sailors. Now the old jig has a Duke Ellington picture either side. They're now having jazz Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
A bit more expensive.